Hello, this is my round 2 game, which was a loss. I was playing against a player rated 2050 or so, and he played Hillbilly Attack, which I've seen a couple times, but I never thought I was going to face it over the board because it's kind of a coffee house opening. So I was feeling annoyed. At this point, it's game 2. I was sort of annoyed in the first game because they played this kind of solid sideline, and I didn't get the kind of position I wanted. And here again, we get kind of an awkward opening that I don't feel super prepared for. But I kind of remembered some things. I played d5, he drops back, I capture the pawn. Apparently, after this move, if we want to get just a normal Caro-Kann game, we can actually just play e6. And I'll play f6 or knight f6. He'll kick it. He'll win here, and we get kind of a game that's similar to the two knights, which is just a really comfortable way to play. We have some other options that I'll explore here in a minute. Instead, I chose to play g6, which is probably objectively the strongest way to play. Kicks the queen, and here I played knight f6, which is fine, but we have this interesting idea that we're going to probably make another video on called we're going to call it the some dumb trucker defense. And it goes a5, and the idea is that they'll play a4, and then we're going to go knight to a6. And we have kind of an idea, they capture here, we're going to play knight to c5, and we're just going to get rid of this bishop. And actually did get this in a blitz game just yesterday. So he played in my blitz game queen to e5, hitting my rook. Well, I take the bishop, he takes mine, I take here, he takes here, and we get this check, and the king already loses the right to castle. We have the bishop pair, we're up a pawn. This is fantastic. I won this game in just a couple moves, actually. This game ended quite quickly. So this is a nice way to try to play against this. They don't obviously have to go into this line, but almost no matter what, we're going to get rid of this bishop, and we're going to get active play quickly. So instead, I played this knight to f6, and he played here, and I kind of remembered that we were supposed to give the pawn back, but I forgot that we're giving it back with this e6 move. And so after knight f6, he played here. I just didn't defend the pawn. I was like, fine, just take it, and we'll get just kind of a comfortable game. And I'd be happy to trade off a pair of knights. I'll go put a new knight on f6, and everything should be good. Of course, he played f3, which is kind of the point. They're going for quick development and a kingside attack. So I decided, all right, I'll just grab the pawn and see what happens. I've played bishop f5, which is actually a pretty nice move. And perhaps probably the computer's strongest move. But it's kind of, I played this before, and there's some h3, g4 ideas, and the bishop gets hit, and I couldn't quite remember how that went, and I didn't want to deal with that. So I just took, he played here, and now I spent quite a bit of time trying to decide what's the best way to have a setup, and I had two sort of ideas. I went bishop g4. Oops, sorry, castles, and now I played bishop g4. But I thought here that perhaps I should play, my other idea was to play here, c5, preventing d4, and also threatening to trade the queens off at some point, which would have been quite a nice idea. For example, it prevents knight to g5, which is pretty obnoxious. His idea is that he'll go knight g5, rook takes f6, and then checkmate. And so this idea, it does stop that plan. And so, for example, if he goes knight g5 immediately, not knight to d7, but queen to d4, and we would trade the queens off. And now his attack's over, I'm just up a clean pawn, everything's great. So if instead, like d3, I can bring this knight in, and if he needs to try to stop this, well, now I can just play b6, and we have good chances to try to develop the bishop this way. We do have knight to d4 in some lines, some ideas, trying to get rid of this bishop. This bishop's quite strong. And this would have been probably, maybe, just another way to play. It turns out that my bishop g5 is fine. These are roughly equivalent ideas, but I went this way. Mostly just because I wanted to chop this knight. And I thought, if this knight goes away, I'm safe. I'm good. Turns out that's not true. I kind of started to suspect that actually, maybe this doesn't quite feel so safe, because he has ideas of coming here, chopping, and then mating. So White's position is actually pretty easy to play. His ideas are really pretty comfortable. And our ideas, even though we're up a pawn, somewhat more challenging to come up with. I chose here. He, of course, came out, and now I play queen to b6, which is too slow. And it kind of gets to the first sort of instructive point of the game. Really, I need to counter in the center quickly. Because if I just give him a bunch of free moves, well, we get what happened in the game, and we get a pretty strong attack. I wanted to play c5 here. Somehow I was super afraid of d5. I don't know why. I just was. And turns out that d5 is actually just terrible. We have some nice tactics that follow up, but even if we don't, well, we've shut this bishop out, and we should be really happy that this bishop is now not doing so great. We've also gathered the e5 square for our knight, and we can actually just continue on immediately with c4. And if the bishop takes, we have this move coming up. We also have the option to play check and pick up this pawn, and the game is very different because we're attacking and getting some counter shots on the queen side and not letting white just quickly bring their pieces in and checkmate us. So this would have been definitely a much stronger way to go for me. This c5 move was really important. For example, if instead he captures here, well, I should be pretty happy with this. I'll just play knight takes. I'm maybe going to get rid of this bishop. I have opportunities to bring my queen in. I get that there's a bishop here, but that bishop maybe is not always going to be there. And I just have more movement and ability to maneuver with my pieces. I mean, maybe at some point I have options even to come here and try to get rid of this bishop. And if I can trade pieces, then my extra pawn is just felt, which, by the way, is now passed. This would have definitely been a great way to have continued, something like this. And I just don't know why I was so afraid of d5. It's such a weird thing. Like, what does d5 actually even accomplish for him? Is he going to play d6 at some point? It's really not sure. But I got fixated with this idea of trying to play c5 at a time when he couldn't play d5, which was the point of queen b6. I thought, now when I play c5, you can't play d5 because I have c4 and I win the bishop because of this check. So this was my idea, but this is a bit too slow. He just moves his king out of the way, and now, okay, what am I going to do now? So I played rook to d8, which I thought, all right, if I'm going to get some counterplay, it needs to be against this pawn. So I tried to line up against this pawn, and I thought maybe I'll move this knight out of the way and then try to attack this pawn. And I have, sort of three pieces all sort of lined up here, and I thought this was going to be the way to get counterplay. And it turns out I just don't have time for this. He brought his other rook across, and again, I have opportunity. I should play c5 right now. With the point is, I can still play c4, and he still can't take here because I get counterplay. So, for example, c5, if d5, well, I mean, I can play knight to e5 first and then prepare this c5 because we don't want the queen just to come across and take. And again, I'm already getting some play here. My pieces are in the game and they're doing stuff, which is not really the case of what happened. So instead here, I brought this rook across, which is just terrible, horrible. What was going on with my plan of moving this knight out of the way, and I was going to go try to take this pawn. And I thought that, maybe because of all of these sacrifices here that he has, that probably I was going to want to put a knight on f8 anyway. So, for example, I thought if he captures here, I would maybe take back with the pawn and try to shut the rooks out of this f7 square. Notice this pressure. All of these rooks, and I really needed this rook back here, it turns out. So he went to here, and so now, again, he stops me from playing this, because, when he moves, now I can't play c4 again, so I played queen to b4. Again, trying to play c5 when he can't play d5, but this is just too slow. And he just brings another piece into the attack, which is quite a nice move. He took the bishop away from attacking here, but now the knight is. And I can't take the knight because this f7 square is quite bad. So I played c5 now, and it's less than ideal now. I mean, he has a kind of a nice sacrifice, actually. He can just take here, plays here, and then this queen takes here. He's got knight g5 coming, and I'm in a world of hurt. I mean, this is quite bad for me, quite bad. I was lucky that he didn't see this idea, as I didn't see it either. He kicked here. I dropped back. He kicked again, and now I went to this square, and thinking that I might be able to come across and try to bring my queen in somewhere and try to trade queens or something. He played here, and really I should be pretty happy, and I was feeling pretty happy because now a lot of this pressure off f7 has been reduced because the bishop is shut out now. This bishop is not doing anything near what it was. So he played here to f6, and by this point, so the time control for these was 80 minutes for the first 40 moves, plus a 30-second increment, and then you get 30 more minutes. And we're on move 20, and by this point, we were both down to like 1 to 2 minutes. And so I had to make a decision quite quickly here. And I had a suspicion that somehow this probably was bad. My spidey senses were telling me that I probably had something good here, and I do. I just couldn't really calculate it. I thought that I would take here, and I thought that I thought he would play this, and I didn't see that in this case I just have bishop f6. This is the move that I missed because I thought that, okay, if I bring a knight in, well, he just takes, and this is atrocious for me, and so I just missed this idea, and instead chose to bring this knight in, which I thought I would leave this here, and I would try to put a knight into g4 and try to capture it that way. This is not so great. He played rook to h3, which is exactly the right move. I did bring in the knight to g4. He captured, I capture, and he brought this in, which is bad. I calculated what I thought was just a clean win for him. I thought that he would take, and then I thought that I would have to take, and then I thought that he had this move, capturing here, and I missed that I can actually just take with the rook, because I thought I had to take with the pawn, and this is quite terrible. I capture here, he gives this check, I come out to here, he gives this check, and then when I come to here, because I need to defend this rook, he has this check, and he's going to pick up the rook and just be up a clean piece, which is what I kind of thought was going to happen. I probably would have found this move and then been okay, because the queen is going to defend the h8 square, so there's no check there, and that would have been quite a nice way for things to have gone for me. But instead, he chose to play knight into here, and now I brought the rook back to f7, because I thought that his idea, again, seconds. I played this move really instantly. I thought his idea was to capture here, and then he would capture here. But I have a much cleaner way to deal with this threat. I just play h5. And now when he captures here, yeah, this knight's pinned, but you still can't take this pawn. So this would have been quite a nice way for things to have gone. h5 would have been a nice resource. Instead, I just quickly played the rook back, sort of highlighting how silly it was to move the rook out in the first place. He brought this bishop back, and now I play this h5 move. It would have been nicer to have played it immediately, but, you know, it's not what I got. So he played here because I was attacking a pawn, and I brought in this idea. And my original idea was that I was just going to play to d2, and maybe I get to have this knight to e3. But again, I was just playing on the increment here. We're both playing on the increment quite quickly. He brought here, and yeah, if I play queen to d2, I'm actually quite a bit better. I have some real threats, and my position's fine, but I just went and grabbed a pawn. I didn't see any immediate threats from him, and he doesn't really have any serious threats. I mean, he's slightly better, but I went here, and I played knight to e5, and now rook to e3, and I played here, which is not the best square. I thought that this was going to be kind of nice because I was pinning the bishop. I was worried about some sacrifice here, but really I should just put the queen on b2, because really some of the discoveries don't feel that good. don't feel that good. So I went here, and he brought queen d4, and now I have to be legitimately worried about discoveries, especially now because I have to move back. Whereas if I had gone we skipped ahead to the end of the game. You guys get to see all of the bad things that happen there. Let's back up ahead. If instead of here I had played to this square and now queen to f4, it's a little bit different because I can drop back just like in the game, but I get to save a tempi that I didn't get to save in the game. So for example, after he takes, which he did in the game, I maybe have some additional options I can maybe play queen to d4. Actually, no, I can't because of knight e6, which happened in the game. But this would have been, I would have saved a tempo this way. Turned out not to maybe matter all that much. But instead, I played here. I dropped back. He took. I didn't dropped out of the way. And then he hit me with this knight d6. And I'm just in a big world of hurt because of this pin. And I'm going to lose in exchange and probably more. So I went here. He brought the queen in. He's threatening mate immediately. So I had to come here to stop it. And he takes this guy, takes here. And, you know, I was going to just resign. I probably should have. I decided I threw in one more move. And, you know, he can just play. He just played rook takes h7. And it's totally resignable because, well, what am I going to do? I can't even take it because it's check and then mate. So nice game from him. Nice attacking game. And really, there's some nice takeaways. The most important one for me, other than the opening considerations, because I did have some other options in the opening that we explored, like the e6 idea, but rewinding back to this position, instead of playing queen to b6, just this play that I get from c5, and understanding that d5 is actually quite good for me, and that I should be quite happy with this. So, for example, if like rook to d1, I can even just grab this. Be great. I mean, he's got to take back with the queen, which distracts the queen away from this attack. I can now play h6, kick this bishop out of the way. So, for example, the bishop comes back to here, and I'm doing quite well. This attack is not so direct. It's not so obvious what he's going to do, and this would have been a nice way to play. Lots of good ways that this would go. Anyway, I hope that this was instructive for you guys and you take something away from this and that you get to learn from my mistakes when you play. Thanks a lot and wish you the best. Bye-bye.